Tonight, tempers flare as an emergency cooling center closes its doors.
The city you live in, you need its help. Isn't it supposed to help you?
The people left with nowhere else to go as temperatures continue to soar. We'll tell you how the city is defending the closure.
Parks, not pubs.
New backing tonight to tear down caution tape at playgrounds. The health experts joining parents and coming out swinging with updated science around the coronavirus.
I do believe that there is some form of empowerment that's happening with darker-skinned girls.
And the South Asian dating sites filtering out racism after a Toronto woman's push for a more inclusive kind of love. But we begin tonight with breaking news. 3 people were injured after a shooting near Jane and Woolner. Police are on scene and say there were reports of a black SUV seen speeding away. Police are asking people to stay away from the area while they investigate, and we will keep on top of this developing story tonight, and we'll let you know if we learn anything else. Now to our top story tonight. Some are saying the city is giving them the cold shoulder amid sweltering heat. For roughly 30 people experiencing homelessness, this will be their last night at an emergency cooling center. Kelda Yoon is live for us tonight at Metro Hall. And Kelda, the city says as the heat warning lifts tomorrow, the center will be closed.
Chris, come 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, all those staying inside Metro Hall at the emergency cooling center there, they will be forced to leave. Now, of the 15 emergency cooling centers across the city, that's the only one that people are allowed to stay overnight in. And with the shelters all essentially full, it's been the only place that some have been able to find some kind of relief. Now, I spoke to one man who has been staying there for over a week, and he says he's terrified because he doesn't know where he's going to go after tonight. For the past 8 days, Brian Riccardi has been staying here at the emergency cooling center inside Metro Hall. It's open around the clock.
It's only a cooling center, but they do have cots at night that come out at 10 o'clock for whomever needs to stay.
For Riccardi and about 30 others, it's better than being out on the street. But come tomorrow morning, they will be forced out as the heat warning ends.
Frankly, on an honest note, I'm scared. I have nowhere to go. We've all been talking about this because we're scared because the heat may have dropped, but it's still toxic, especially when you're carrying all of your stuff with you and you don't have free access to water.
In a statement to CBC, the city says the cooling center will only stay open past 11 a.m. tomorrow if the heat alert is extended.
It makes no sense to close it because they're saying there's another heat wave coming by Wednesday. They're already telling the staff here, be prepared for Wednesday. So they're reopening, but for 4 days, 5 days, we have to just stumble through and hope for the best.
Since the pandemic, the city has been working to move homeless people into empty hotels and apartments. Riccardi says he and others at the cooling center have been calling the intake line every day, hoping to be housed or for a shelter bed to open up, but no luck.
It's the not knowing and the frustration of knowing that when you look at these buildings, the money's available, the space is available. That's frightening because the city you live in, you need its help.
Now, Riccardi says there is a planned sit-in right here outside Metro Hall tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. He and all those who have been staying at the cooling center and anyone else who wants to join will be demanding the city keep the cooling center open and also demanding the city to work quicker to house the vulnerable. Chris.
Thanks for this tonight, Kelda. Next to a plan to permanently get roughly 24 of Toronto's homeless off the streets and into an affordable home.
We're here to celebrate something that seems modest in the context of the size of the building and the number of units that is represented, but it's another big step forward as we make these steps forward to achieve our goal ultimately of 40,000 new affordable housing units and 18,000 supportive housing units as well.
Toronto's mayor there talking about 22 new affordable housing units now available at 25 Leonard Avenue near Bathurst and Dundas. The studio apartments have a washroom, kitchen, and combined sleeping and living spaces. Rent will be just over $500 a month. The city is also providing rent supplements to make it possible for people to afford. Now to the COVID-19 pandemic and a 5-week downward trend in new daily cases continuing. The province reporting 116 additional cases of the disease today. Despite the positive direction, the government has not laid out what will happen in the next phase of reopening. Mike Crawley explains what might be coming.
Right now, outdoors is the only option in Ontario for eating at a restaurant or drinking at a bar. Owners hope they'll also be able to serve customers indoors when the province moves to the next stage of reopening. And there are clear signs that stage 3 is imminent.
I know everyone's pressuring me, let's open up stage 3. We're going to get there.
The daily number of new cases in Ontario has been coming down steadily since the beginning of June. That continued even after stage 2 reopenings began.
We are looking at the data. It's looking very positive.
Although stage 3 could come any day, the province has yet to say exactly which rules will change.
Anything involving mass gatherings, particularly mass indoor gatherings, should remain off the table. Everything else is probably fair game.
We just want to be cautious, but eventually we have to open up the bars. We have to open up restaurants inside.
If restaurants are approved to serve customers indoors, they'll likely have to keep extra room between groups of diners to reduce the chances of spreading the virus.
There's going to be an inherent risk, but it's a risk that I would say is less than, say, a nightclub.
Crowded bars have contributed to the recent jump in cases in the U.S. In Quebec, bars face new, tighter restrictions effective today.
Key is minimizing the number of people in the establishment, minimizing contact with other people. Bars are a tough one because people go there to interact.
Cinemas have been shut in Ontario since March. British Columbia allowed theirs to open last week.
A movie theater could open, but I guarantee you they're not going to be able to have full capacity. People will be spread out in the seats.
Experts believe Ontario will allow gyms to open in stage 3, at least partially.
Step classes and spin classes, probably not a good idea. Using weight machines, that can be managed.
Still in question, whether the closures of casinos, convention centers, and amusement parks will end in stage 3. The government has previously said it would announce reopening moves on Mondays. Today, the Premier was asked if we'll be hearing an announcement about stage 3 this coming Monday. He said, stay tuned. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Regardless of what comes in stage 3, many are wondering why playgrounds remain off limits. And as Lauren Pelly reports, it's not just parents who say they should be opened.
Maria Gonzalez isn't letting caution tape stop her son from playing in their local park.
Parks should be open. Parks should have been the first thing to be open. We only have so much of the summer to enjoy.
Like many Ontario parents, she's confused why playgrounds remain closed while much of society is back open.
When the pubs opened, me and the kids were like marching up and down the street saying, parks, not pubs. Parks, not pubs.
You hope that at some point we'll be able to access the parks. I know these guys are chopping at the bit to be able to do it.
With proper sanitization, some playgrounds could probably be opened at this point. And it's not just parents who want to open these spaces back up. A growing number of health experts say playgrounds are less risky than originally thought.
I don't see a good reason why playgrounds should be closed.
This infectious disease expert says the virus behind COVID-19 likely has a tough time surviving on slides and monkey bars.
There's good ventilation. UV light is relatively sterilizing to the virus.
For children, being outdoors and spending time outdoors has a lot of health benefits.
Yet, this Ryerson researcher says many Toronto kids are getting less physical activity during this pandemic.
I think it's a time when public health officials should make decisions where they strike a balance between ensuring physical distancing as well as ensuring the health and well-being of children and adults.
Premier Doug Ford says it's not worth the risk.
I'm being told from our medical officer of health and other people, kids are on there, they're touching, feeling, sneezing, everything else.
Ford is hoping to open playgrounds in stage 3, but no word yet on when that will be. In the meantime,
The children are restless and they're tired.
Gonzalez says the province could be moving faster with some creativity.
I was somewhere not too long ago where there was a park and they had a hand washing station. And I think options like that would be great if the government could think outside the box.
Now, we also heard from Premier Ford today that one of the challenges is regularly sanitizing these playgrounds so they're safe. And yet, in contrast, outside experts say Mother Nature is basically doing just that. Between the sunlight and the air circulation, it's hard for the virus to survive in these types of surfaces. So will we see playgrounds open up soon? That's the hope for many families across the province. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Starting tonight, the new steps to stop late-night partying on Toronto beaches we told you about last night come into effect. The city is adding new parking restrictions at 3 popular spots: Marie Curtis Park, Humber Bay West, and Cherry Beach. Those lots will now close at 7 p.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The city says those beaches have seen large bonfire parties in recent weeks. There will also be an increase of bylaw officers in those areas this weekend. Large signs have been up along the waterfront to advise those coming to the beach that parking is restricted.
It's a complete joke. So I have to call this racial profiling.
This officer with Toronto Police Traffic Services was accused of blowing a stop sign on McMaster's campus. Now he's accusing the school and its special constable of violating his human rights. We'll bring you his story coming up later in the show. Now to the fatal shooting of former notorious mobster Pat Musitano. The shooting happened in a plaza parking lot in Burlington near Plains and King Roads just after 1 p.m. Musitano died of his injuries and another person was rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. Musitano is the head of the city's infamous Musitano crime family. He was gunned down in a Mississauga parking lot in April of 2019, but survived. His brother, Angelo, was shot and killed in the driveway of his Waterdown home 3 years ago. To Scarborough now, and a shooting this afternoon that left a man with serious injuries. It happened outside the Scarborough Town Centre near the Walmart entrance. Police say a dark-colored SUV was seen leaving the scene. Investigators say they have located a vehicle that may be related to the shooting, but it doesn't appear that any arrests have been made. Police are asking any witnesses of the shooting to contact them. Next up, a former Toronto police officer says he was racially profiled at Hamilton's McMaster University. As Lorenda Redekop explains, it started with an alleged traffic violation and is now before the Human Rights Tribunal.
McMaster University.
Kevin Daly says in 2017, he was driving on McMaster's campus to pick up his son and came to a stop sign.
I stopped, I went through, and the next thing, I see these red and blue flashing lights.
He says he didn't realize the campus special constable's lights were for him. Once he parked, the constable told him he'd gone through a stop sign. At that time, Daly was an officer for Toronto Police Traffic Services and says special constables can't issue tickets for that.
So I asked him, I said, are you sure that you have the authority to do what you're doing? And does management know?
According to McMaster University's incident report, he went through one stop sign, blew through another, made a U-turn, ignored the special constable, and became a public safety concern. He says he's seen security video and is fighting to get a copy.
When you see the video, it's a complete joke. So I have to call this racial profiling.
He says a month later, his boss at Traffic Services asked about the incident and told him McMaster's head of security, former Hamilton Police Chief Glenn DeCare, would be emailing him.
Why did my employer get involved in this? This should have been shut down immediately. This was, at most, a rolling stop sign.
The email that he says was dated a month earlier told him he was a persona non grata on McMaster's campus. He's still banned from campus. He filed a complaint to the Ontario Civilian Police Commission, which recently made several recommendations, all to Hamilton's Police Services Board that oversees the special constables. One of the recommendations reminded the board of its power to suspend or fire special constables. In a statement, McMaster says the commission made no findings of misconduct against any individual, but it is clear that errors were made in how the incident was handled. Daly says it all went too far.
You do think that race is at the heart of it?
In this case, absolutely. I don't see any reason for it. Who does this? Nobody goes this far over a stop sign.
Next up in this process is mediation at the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal in August. That's between Daly and McMaster, Hamilton Police, and also Toronto Police. He also wants video of the incident released. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Hamilton.
Still to come, a popular worldwide matchmaking site has removed a skin tone filter from its platform.
I decided to email them and just ask them, why is this filter still there when we have a whole movement advocating for equality regardless of skin tone?
The Toronto woman who made it happen is coming up on the other side of this break. Stick around. Welcome back. There has been locker room chatter for a while, but tonight it is official. NHL players just ratified a deal to make Toronto a hub city, meaning the Eastern Conference will play here starting at the end of July. The Western Conference will play their season in Edmonton. Toronto's also on the map tonight for pushing for change to a popular global matchmaking site. As Farah Morelli tells us, the move comes after a Toronto woman called out the site for what she calls a discriminatory filter.
Baby. It's an app that advertises itself as a place to meet someone for keeps. Shadi literally means marriage in Hindi. Megan Nagpal used to have an account until she kept coming across something troubling, a skin tone filter.
It has you select whether you are light-skinned fair. What they call wheatish would be somewhere between light and dark, or dark. And users can filter out the skin tone based on their preference of what skin tone they want.
So Nagpal mobilized. She started tweeting at Shadi.com and joined a group that launched this petition to remove the skin tone filter. The company listened.
She was able to get the petition directly to the executives of the website, and overnight the filter was gone.
You know, you've become really beautiful. Your face is fairer, glowing.
For decades, skin lightening creams like Fair & Lovely have been a massive industry in places like India because lighter skin was historically seen as more desirable. That bias is called shadism, also known as colorism, prevalent in the South Asian community.
The root of it is slavery. The root of it is also colonization. When a group has been historically oppressed and they have not been given the freedom to understand what their own identity is, something like colorism is very easy to fester in communities because we don't know what makes us enough.
Many are now pushing to change perceptions. Marusha Yogaraja was part of a photography project called Unfair and Lovely. It's now a social media movement trying to undo the antiquated notion that light equals beautiful.
I do believe that there is some form of empowerment that's happening with darker skinned girls. I don't necessarily know if that's happening with folks who are elders. I have a really hard time having those conversations because it's so deeply embedded in anti-Blackness.
While there's plenty of work to do, momentum is building. Though still a lightening cream, Fair & Lovely recently rebranded to Glow & Lovely. And Nagpal says 2 other South Asian dating sites have also agreed to remove similar filters.
If change is happening in the States in regards to equality between Black people and white people, I would hope that in the South Asian culture, change would also be facilitated as a result of this movement.
Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's a beautiful shot for you of the Harbor Import Credit. This one coming to us from Mississauga's Emily Roman. And Emily snapped this keeper last month. And what a picturesque evening it was. And a picturesque evening it was tonight as well, but definitely still too hot for many, me included. Nick Cernkovich is here now. Nick, a bit of a cool down is on the way.
Well, Chris, we've been talking about some relief from all of this heat and humidity, and it is finally just around the corner, but it comes with thunderstorms, and we're seeing that across the GTA tonight and through the overnight, and actually carrying on into tomorrow as well. So here's a look at your weather headlines. It will be a bit of a stormy weekend, especially the first half of the weekend. So Saturday, Sunday, though, still some unsettled weather there, but relief from the heat. Temperatures coming back down to seasonal, which sits at about 27, 28 degrees, depending on where you are. And the humidity also coming down as well. Humidex values this weekend more around 34, and that's a bit more normal. The 40s are a little bit excessive. Today we hit 32 degrees, again with that humidex of 40, but this is all changing as we go through tomorrow, and it is coming with some rain and thunderstorms. So the first round of this coming tonight, we're seeing that moving across the GTA through the overnight period tonight, then a bit of a break for tomorrow morning. But as we head through sort of late morning, early afternoon hours, we're looking at another cluster of showers and thunderstorms developing in the GTA, and that's pretty much going to carry us through. So look, this is 1 p.m. basically till after the dinner hour. Now, it doesn't mean it's just going to be steady rain, but you can expect to see on and off thunder showers throughout the day tomorrow, especially through the afternoon. Then as we head through Sunday, generally it's going to be cloudy. Generally, we're looking at dry conditions, certainly through sort of the morning hours, but some spotty showers developing through the afternoon. So we are looking at rain on Sunday, but the bulk of the rain coming tomorrow. Well, tonight and tomorrow. In terms of how much we can expect, here's a look at the latest in terms of the forecast models. But I always say this, for summer weather, convective weather with thunderstorms, don't put too much stock in these numbers. Use them as a guideline because they're really dictated by whether you see a thunderstorm in your neighborhood or not. If this was just a widespread rain event, sure, these numbers are a bit more accurate, but this gives us a general idea of what we can expect. So I'm calling for about 20 plus millimeters of rain in Toronto, and that means some areas will see 29, 30 or more in heavier thunderstorms. But generally speaking, about 20 plus millimeters expected. There's a look at the forecast for tonight across southwestern Ontario. Tomorrow, a little bit nicer down in Windsor as the showers and thunderstorms move eastward. Golden Horseshoe, again, thunder showers through the overnight period tonight and then carrying on into tomorrow afternoon as well. Highs to about 27 degrees, and it'll be pretty unsettled as we move through the day tomorrow. Sunday, again, showers, not an all-day washout event, but showers, 26 degrees. Monday, again, more in the way of rain and rain showers. A little bit better on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures close to seasonal.
All right, thanks, Nick. And we are going to take a quick break. We're back in 1 minute.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Finally, for us tonight, the Cliffs of Fundy in Nova Scotia have been designated a UNESCO Global Geopark. The cliffs stretch across 160 kilometers of rugged coastline and is home to the world's highest tides and Canada's oldest dinosaur fossils. Very neat. And that is our show for tonight. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you then.